Welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining us on another deep dive episode on the channel where we explore the rare, the mysterious, and the unbelievably valuable treasures hiding inside the world of coins. And today we're talking about one of the strangest, most debated, and most exaggerated stories in numismatics, the rumored 1990 Lincoln cent supposedly worth an astonishing $386 million because of a blend of minting errors, production anomalies, mistaken identities, myths, theories, and a swirl of speculative frenzy that grips collectors and dreamers alike. So get comfortable, because we're about to take a long, winding journey through everything that fuels the legend of this coin, from real historic minting processes to misunderstood facts, to the tiny possibilities that have sparked huge imaginations, and exactly why some people believe that a coin minted for 1 cent could somehow become one of the most valuable objects ever created by the United States Mint, even though the real story behind its supposed errors and incredible valuation is tangled in mystery, speculation, and the powerful human desire to find unimaginable fortune in the most ordinary pocket change. And as we begin this long exploration, let's start by imagining the year 1990 at the Denver Mint, a facility buzzing with machinery that punches, blanks, anneals, strikes, inspects, bags, seals, and ships billions of coins every year. And among those billions was the humble 1990 D-cent, a zinc core coated in copper, newly redesigned in terms of composition just a few years prior after the transition from bronze to zinc in 1982, and during these high-speed production years, errors were not impossible. In fact, minor mistakes happened regularly: off-center strikes, die cracks, die chips, broad strikes, lamination issues, cut breaks, plating bubbles, misaligned dies, repunched mint marks, and a whole list of other mechanical hiccups that collectors obsess over, because even the smallest deviation from perfection can transform an ordinary coin into something valuable. But the legend of the 1990 D-cent being worth $386 million doesn't come from minor issues like these. Instead, it comes from a blending of real history and imaginative speculation, beginning with the famous 1990 no-S-proof cent, a genuinely rare coin produced in extremely limited quantities when the mint mark was mistakenly omitted on certain San Francisco proof dies, and that coin really is valuable, commanding thousands of dollars, which has led to widespread misunderstanding among the general public that other 1990 pennies, like the 1990 D, might also carry world record value, especially if they contain unusual characteristics or something that people think might connect them to a major minting blunder. And as rumors spread, people began imagining a scenario where a regular 1990 D-cent could have been struck with incorrect dies or mismatched hubs, or even created as part of a secret set, a transitional design mule, or a one-of-a-kind mint experiment. And soon the idea snowballed into a myth that somewhere out there exists an ultra-rare 1990 D Lincoln cent that escaped the Denver Mint under impossible circumstances and allegedly harbors an error so outrageous that it could shock the numismatic world to its core, possibly involving a mismatched obverse die paired with a proof reverse, or a Denver Mint coin struck on a foreign planchet, or perhaps created with a San Francisco proof die that somehow migrated across facilities, or even a coin struck on leftover bronze stock that wasn't supposed to be used in that year, because there have been real historical examples of unexpected planchet contamination, like the 1943 bronze cent or the 1944 steel cent, where planchets from the previous year remained stuck in minting equipment and later created multi-million-dollar rarities when discovered. So people naturally project those possibilities onto other years, including 1990, wondering whether a stray bronze planchet or foreign blank could have been fed into the presses meant for zinc cents. And then the theories amplify even further when collectors start discussing double-struck proofs, wrong planchet errors from coins intended for foreign governments, off-metal strikes involving aluminum, brass, or steel, or theoretical mule errors where two mismatched dies not meant for each other collide to create a coin that should not exist. Something like the famous 2000 Sacagawea dollar mule with a Washington quarter obverse, which proved beyond any doubt that astronomically rare mistakes can and do slip through inspection even in the modern era, and once the public realizes that such mistakes are possible, they start imagining every year, every mint, and every coin as a potential candidate for that once-in-a-century error. And this is exactly where the legend of the $386 million 1990 penny grows from overpowering speculation rather than solid evidence, because collectors love the idea that a simple coin could be so rare, so baffling, and so historically important that it would command a price not just in the thousands or millions, but hundreds of millions, rivaling famous artworks, rare diamonds, private jets, and even spacecraft in monetary value. And you can imagine how such stories spread. Someone hears about the 1990 NOS proof being valuable and assumes the Denver version might be even rarer. Someone else hears about rare mule errors and applies the idea to a date where no mule has ever been confirmed. Then someone online misinterprets auction prices or exaggerates speculative values, and soon the rumor becomes that a single 1990 cent with a theoretical error, maybe a missing mint mark, maybe a mismatched die, maybe a wrong planchet, could be worth $386 million, a number so enormous that it doesn't even align with the reality of the numismatic market, because even the rarest U.S. coins ever sold, like the 1933 Double Eagle, the 1804 draped bust dollar, or the 1794 flowing hair dollar, only sell in the tens of millions, not hundreds, and yet this doesn't stop the legend from growing, because people love stories of hidden fortune, and the idea of a penny worth hundreds of millions taps into the same imagination that fuels treasure hunting, gold seeking, and the endless fascination with rare collectibles that could be hiding in plain sight in someone's junk drawer, coffee can, or childhood collection. And if we take a moment to consider all the possible minting anomalies that could theoretically create a coin so bizarre that it becomes one of the most valuable in existence, we begin to see why the story captivates so many people. Because imagine a 1990 cent struck on a gold planchet, or a coin mistakenly struck using a 1989 die with some transitional element not yet understood, or a coin created with experimental metal composition, or a coin struck twice, rotated, off-center, with overlapping images that create a once-in-history strike, or a coin that accidentally received a proof finish inside the Denver Mint, something that would require a breakdown in procedural barriers since proof coins were not produced there. And this impossibility alone fuels imagination, because when something is not supposed to exist, that's exactly the kind of object people think could secretly be worth hundreds of millions, even though there is no documented 1990 cent with such traits. The mere possibility inspires speculation, and speculation inspires exaggerated value, and exaggerated value inspires internet myths, and internet myths create viral claims that spread across social media, and as those claims circulate, the number $386 million becomes attached to the idea of a 1990 cent. Next. 2006 Lincoln cent rumored to be worth a jaw-dropping $76 million because of a blend of alleged minting errors, theoretical mistakes, unexplained anomalies, and endless possibilities that have set imaginations on fire across the numismatic community. And before we journey into the heart of this strange legend, I want to welcome all of you who love rare coins, hidden gems, and unbelievable stories to sit back and dive into this narrative that stretches across minting history. Mechanical processes, human error, dramatic speculation, and the persistent belief that sometimes unimaginable value hides in the most ordinary pocket change. And as we begin this massive exploration, we need to step back into the year 2006, a year when the Denver Mint was operating at its usual relentless pace, stamping out billions of zinc core, copper-plated Lincoln cents as part of the modern era of U.S. coinage, an era defined not by low mintages or dramatic design changes but by industrial efficiency, automated precision, and quality control systems far more advanced than anything from earlier decades. And yet even with modern machinery running at breakneck speed, errors were not impossible, because the minting process always carries a margin for mechanical hiccups, meaning that even in 2006 the Denver Mint still produced coins showing die chips, plating bubbles, split plating, minor off-center shifts, misaligned dies, weak strikes, doubled dies, though rare, retained cuds. Interior die cracks, zinc rot exposure points, planchet voids, and other anomalies that excite collectors who know that even tiny deviations can bring interesting value, but the tale of the 2006 D-cent allegedly worth $76 million doesn't come from these routine imperfections. It comes from an avalanche of speculation mixed with misunderstood facts, rumors borrowed from other coin stories, theories involving impossible minting scenarios, and the unstoppable human desire to discover a fantastically rare treasure hiding in what appears to be an ordinary coin, and the legend continues to grow each time someone imagines a one-of-a-kind error escaping the mint, because collectors know that impossible things have happened before, like transitional planchet mistakes in earlier decades, mule errors pairing mismatched designs, double denomination strikes where a cent is struck using dime dies or vice versa, and even proof finish errors emerging from unexpected mint facilities. So once people understood that minting accidents, though extremely rare, can lead to coins worth tens of thousands or even millions, they began projecting that same possibility onto the 2006 D-cent, building layer upon layer of speculation, until eventually the number 76 million became attached to the rumor as if it were a real auction result instead of a theoretical, exaggerated, speculative fantasy circulating through viral videos, chain posts, forums, coin groups, and conversations driven more by imagination than documented evidence. And as this rumor bubbled into the public consciousness, people started inventing potential explanations for how such an astounding value could be justified, some claiming the 2006 D might exist with a double-struck obverse showing ghost images overlaying each other in a way so dramatic it would rewrite modern-era coin history. Others saying there could be a unique mule combining a 2006 Lincoln cent obverse with a reverse from a completely different denomination, a scenario so wild it echoes the legendary 2000 P. Sacagawea dollar mule struck with a Washington quarter obverse, and that real example proves to collectors that impossible combinations can indeed escape the mint, which only fuels greater speculation that something equally extraordinary might have occurred in 2006. And then you have the theories that a 2006 D-cent could have been struck on a leftover bronze planchet from decades earlier, even though bronze cents had been discontinued since 1982, but the stories draw inspiration from the few historical examples where stray planchets remained in machinery years after their use, creating multimillion-dollar anomalies like the 1943 bronze cent or the 1944 steel cent. And once people hear about those rare miracles, they start imagining stray foreign planchets from international coin contracts or experimental blanks intended for testing inside the mint becoming the foundation of a dramatic once-in-a generation 2006 D error, and from there the stories get even wilder, with theories claiming the Denver Mint accidentally used proof dies, despite the fact that proof coins are only made in San Francisco. Yet the allure of an impossible proof-finish Denver penny is irresistible to speculation, because when something should never exist, people imagine it is the very thing that must be worth tens of millions, and then another layer of rumor suggests that an experimental alloy might have been tested in 2006, resulting in a unique cent struck in stainless steel, aluminum, brass, or even a golden alloy. Theories based on real but unrelated historical facts like the secret aluminum cents produced in 1974, and adding to that we get the idea that maybe a 2006 D-cent was struck on a dime planchet, causing a dramatic off-metal error with a smaller diameter and partial design cutoff, a type of error that has sold for tens of thousands in other years, and you even hear people claiming that a double denomination strike could exist where a cent was stamped over a Roosevelt dime or over a Jefferson nickel blank, creating a freakish coin combining two denominations, something that has happened in other years and has sold for large amounts, But even these real error types don't justify $76 million, so the rumor continues to expand as believers insist that only a one-of-a-kind, historically unprecedented, utterly impossible mint mistake could justify the staggering fictional price tag, which leads to theories involving multi-strike rotational mules, obverse reversals, deeply clashed dies showing reverse details from other denominations, ghost impressions from foreign coin dies, hybrid hubs created incorrectly during the die-making phase, overpolished dies causing missing details, dies that shattered mid-strike creating a mosaic-style fragmenting of the design, or even a coin struck using a prototype die for an entirely different experimental design. Because collectors know that experimental dies have existed before, and whenever the public hears about prototype coins being created, even if for unrelated years, they begin imagining similar events in 2006, and once the seed of possibility is planted, speculation grows uncontrollably, transforming a normal mint year into a playground of limitless imagination. And as people continued adding layer after layer of exaggerated possibilities, the public began searching their pocket change. Convinced that any plating blister, die crack, discoloration, weight variation, or faint doubling might be a sign of the mythical $76 million penny, and YouTube videos, social media posts, and online discussions magnified the legend until thousands of people believed that a 2006 D-cent might exist that could surpass every record-breaking sale in numismatic history, outpricing even the 1933 Double Eagle or the rarest early American silver dollars, despite the fact that modern pennies rarely exceed even a few $100s unless they have an extremely dramatic confirmed error, and yet the myth persists, because humans are naturally drawn to the idea that an ordinary object might secretly be a gateway to extraordinary wealth, and the psychological thrill of treasure hunting drives people to keep the legend alive, and as the years passed, new theories continued to appear, some suggesting that a planchet mix-up could involve a foreign coin blank accidentally fed into the Denver presses, producing a wrong metal 2006 D-cent unlike anything known, or that a multi-layer plating mistake could cause a dramatic color change resembling gold, silver, or platinum, or that a mint worker accidentally fed an untrimmed planchet, causing an oversized coin that would violate basic minting standards, or that a cent could have been struck using misaligned hub stages resulting in a hybrid design freeze-framed between die generations. But even these creative theories lack any physical evidence, yet they keep the dream alive because the idea of a $76 million cent is simply too exciting for treasure hunters to let go of, and then we have the discussions focusing on the possibility of a 2006 D-cent struck with a missing design element. Next. 2019 D. Lincoln cent that some collectors claim could be worth an unbelievable $54 million because of strange errors, speculative minting anomalies, theoretical mistakes, and a web of imaginative possibilities that have taken on a life of their own, drawing the attention of treasure hunters, coin enthusiasts, and everyday viewers hoping that the penny they picked up from the gas station counter might secretly be worth more than a mansion, a fleet of exotic cars, and a private jet combined. And as we step into this intense world of speculation, myth, and minting intrigue, I want to welcome all of you who are fascinated by hidden value, rare errors, and the irresistible thrill of the unknown, because today's deep dive into the legend of the 2019 D-cent is a journey into what people believe, what people hope for, what people misunderstand, and what might just be possible within the chaotic and unpredictable environment of a busy United States mint facility. And 2. Understand how a simple modern penny became the subject of such an enormous price claim. We need to return to the year 2019 when the Denver Mint struck hundreds of millions of cents, all of them made from the modern copper-plated zinc composition introduced decades earlier, struck at high speed using automated presses designed for efficiency and consistency. But even with modern equipment, the minting process is still vulnerable to occasional errors such as die chips, plating bubbles, die cracks, split plating, off-center strikes, striking pressure inconsistencies, feeder finger scrapes, pre-strike planchet damage, lamination peels, and slight doubling caused by die deterioration, and while many of these errors are minor and common, the existence of even small imperfections gives rise to speculation that something far more dramatic might exist, something rare, something one of a kind, something valuable enough to justify a fantastical price tag like $54 million, and this is where the legend of the 2019 penny begins to take shape, because as people learned about valuable coins like the 1955 Double Die cent, the 1969 Double Die, the 1972 Double Die, the rare 1990 No S proof, the 2000 Sacagawea mule error, and the famous Ron-Planchet transitional errors of earlier decades, they began projecting similar possibilities onto modern coins, believing that major errors could still emerge even in an age of strict minting controls, and soon theory spread that a catastrophic die clash, a dramatic double denomination strike, a mule pairing two mismatched designs, a Ron-Planchet 2019 cent struck on a dime or foreign blank, or even an experimental planchet containing unusual alloy materials might exist somewhere in circulation. And because people are naturally drawn to the idea of discovering a one-of-a-kind treasure during an ordinary day, the speculation only grew louder and more elaborate, with some insisting that one special 2019 cent could have been struck using a proof die by mistake, even though the Denver Mint does not produce proof coins, while others suggested that a 2019 cent might exist without its mint mark, echoing the famous No S proof anomalies from other years, or that perhaps a dramatic misalignment could have created a bizarre cent with rotated dies, overlapping impressions, missing design elements, partial brockages, or doubled and tripled details so extreme that grading companies would classify it as a once-in-a-century minting accident. And then the theories expanded further as people imagined a 2019 cent struck on leftover bronze planchets even though bronze cents were discontinued decades earlier, but this idea is fueled by historical events like the 1943 bronze cents and the 1944 steel cents, coins that resulted from leftover planchets hiding in machinery and becoming legendary rarities, which makes people believe that hidden planchets could still exist today, traveling through minting equipment undetected, only to create an impossible and priceless modern error. And then came the theories involving foreign planchets from international coin contracts, suggesting that a 2019 cent might have been struck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin from another country, giving it the wrong weight, the wrong sound, or a strange metallic color that might lead someone to mistake it for gold, silver, or some futuristic alloy. And then there were theories about experimental testing inside the mint, where some believe an unpublicized experiment involving new planchet compositions could have accidentally resulted in a few test strikes escaping, and if one of those test pieces bore the 2019 date it could create an object of incredible rarity and value. And then there are theories involving hybrid hub impressions where the working hub or master die might have carried faint, unintended remnants of an earlier or alternate design, leaving ghost-like details on the struck coin, or that a shattered die might have produced a spectacular web-like strike pattern, or that a fully missing layer in the copper plating could have revealed an extremely unusual exposed zinc core that collectors might interpret as an experimental strike. And as each theory grew, the legend of the $54 million penny became more deeply embedded in the public imagination, because people loved the idea that a modern coin could rival or surpass the rarest early American coins in value, even though no authenticated 2019 cent has ever sold for anything remotely close to such a price. And part of the reason this legend feels so powerful is because modern coins are so ordinary, so plentiful, and so simple, which makes the idea of an extraordinary error feel even more shocking. And when people hear stories of rare coins being found in pocket change or in jars, they believe it could happen again today, and they start looking more closely at every penny they come across, hoping that a plating blister might actually be a sign of a wrong metal composition, or that a minor doubling caused by die fatigue might be interpreted as a dramatic double die, or that a strike-through error involving grease or debris might resemble a missing design. And as the excitement builds, more people talk about the possibilities, and the story spreads through social media posts, viral videos, online forums, and comment sections, until the idea of a $54 million penny becomes a symbol of hope, mystery, and wishful thinking. Despite having no physical evidence to prove such a coin actually exists, and yet the legend persists because the dream of unimaginable value hidden in an everyday object is irresistible, and collectors know that once-in-a-lifetime mistakes have happened before, and the mere possibility, however small, is enough to keep the myth alive, drawing new treasure hunters into the world of numismatics and inspiring them to search, imagine, and believe that maybe, just maybe, the next extraordinary discovery is already sitting in someone's pocket, purse, or junk drawer right now. Next. 1997 Lincoln cent, a coin many collectors believe could be worth an incredible $32 million because of a mix of alleged minting errors, theoretical mistakes, hidden anomalies, unexplained possibilities, and the endless excitement that comes from imagining that one tiny copper-coated disc from the late 90s might contain a once-in-history flaw that transforms it into one of the most valuable coins ever whispered about in numismatic circles. And before we unravel the many layers behind this legendary claim, I want to welcome everyone who loves rare coins, hidden treasures, and extraordinary stories, because today's deep dive takes us into a year that most people never thought twice about, a year that produced hundreds of millions of ordinary pennies, yet somehow became the birthplace of one of the most dramatic and mind-blowing speculations in the entire hobby. And to understand how the 1997 penny became the focus of a multi-million-dollar legend, we have to go back to the minting process of the late 1990s, a time when the U.S. Mint had settled into the modern era of high-speed zinc core penny production, stamping billions of cents each year using presses, dies, hubs, and automated quality control systems that were far more advanced than the equipment from earlier decades. But even with high-tech machinery, errors still occurred, because anytime metal is struck at extreme speed and extreme pressure under high-volume conditions, things can go wrong, and the types of confirmed errors from the 1990s include die cracks, die chips, plating bubbles, off-center strikes, broad strikes, misaligned dies, weak strikes, feeder finger scrapes, lamination issues, strike-through grease, partial blockage, pre-strike planchet damage, and rare but possible double dies. And while none of these common mistakes justify a price in the millions, they do prove something important: that 1997 pennies are not immune to error, and once people accept that errors happen, the imagination begins to stretch further and further, imagining bigger mistakes, stranger possibilities, and more dramatic scenarios that could make a single 1997 cent not just rare but truly historic. And this is where the legend of the $32 million penny begins to take shape, because collectors know that in rare cases the mint has produced outrageous, almost unbelievable mistakes that escaped into circulation, like double denomination errors where a cent was struck on a dime blank, or even struck over an already minted dime or nickel, creating hybrid coins that sell for tens of thousands today. And then there are mule errors, the most dramatic category of all, where two dies that are not supposed to be paired accidentally strike a coin together, like the famous 2000p Sacagawea dollar with a Washington quarter obverse that became one of the most iconic errors in modern history, proving that even in the modern era unimaginable accidents can and do occur. And once collectors accept that such dramatic errors are possible, they begin speculating whether the 1997 penny might have its own secret error, a mule, a wrong planchet, a double denomination hybrid, or perhaps something so unusual that no one has ever seen anything like it. And then the theories grow even wilder, with some people speculating that a 1997 penny could have been struck on an experimental planchet, perhaps a leftover bronze blank from pre-1982 years that somehow became lodged deep inside a bin, hopper, or conveyor system and remained hidden for 15 years before being struck with a 1997 die, echoing the way the famous 1943 bronze cents or the 1944 steel cents were created through leftover planchets escaping detection. and because those coins are now worth over $1 million each, people assumed similar miracles could have occurred in 1997. And then there are theories involving foreign planchets used by the mint when producing coins for other nations, because historically, the U.S. Mint has struck currency for dozens of countries, meaning foreign blanks have been present in minting facilities, and occasionally these blanks accidentally get fed into presses intended for U.S. coins, creating wrong metal errors that collectors treat as major rarities, and some imagine that a 1997 cent struck on a foreign aluminum, brass, or steel planchet could exist, weighing differently, sounding differently, and appearing slightly off in color, and though no such example has been authenticated, the mere possibility fuels the belief that one could exist and could be the legendary multi-million-dollar coin, and then the theories expand into even stranger territory where collectors imagine catastrophic die clashes so extreme that they leave ghost-like outlines of Lincoln's portrait on the reverse or faint impressions of the Lincoln Memorial on the obverse, or a scenario where a die shattered during a strike, leaving behind a dramatic, lightning bolt-like fragmentation across the entire surface, or perhaps a coin struck with severely rotated dies resulting in a bizarre orientation that collectors would consider one of a kind, and some even imagine a double strike where the coin rotated between impressions, creating overlapping, shifted, duplicated details that give the coin an unmistakable and extremely dramatic appearance unlike anything seen in circulation. And each theory builds upon the last, adding new layers of possibility and mystery until the legend becomes too exciting for treasure hunters to ignore, and soon the rumor spreads that somewhere out there exists a 1997 penny so rare, so strange, so impossible, that its value could reach into the tens of millions, and then the number 32 million begins circulating online, repeated in forums, comments, videos, and posts until it becomes a fixed part of the myth. Even though no auction record or expert confirmation supports it, but that doesn't stop people from believing, because humans are naturally drawn to the dream of discovering unimaginable wealth in the simplest of objects, and the idea that you could find a multi-million-dollar treasure in your pocket change is powerful, irresistible, and emotionally thrilling, and this dream is what keeps the legend alive, inspiring people to search their 1997 pennies more closely, wondering if a tiny anomaly, a plating blister, a die crack, a faint doubling, a strange coloration, an odd weight, might be the clue to uncovering the mysterious multi-million-dollar error, and each person who finds something slightly unusual contributes to the ongoing speculation, even when the unusual feature is simply from normal die wear, metal fatigue, or minor mechanical imperfections. But the thrill of possibility is what fuels the myth, and in the world of numismatics possibilities multiply quickly, because once a single rumor exists, hundreds of theories follow, and soon the legend becomes larger than the coin itself, transforming an ordinary 1997 cent into the imagined centerpiece of an extraordinary discovery, a coin that could, in theory, be a mule pairing with a dime reverse, or a double denomination strike over a previously minted coin, or an unintentional proof-like strike created by overpolished dies or experimental die preparation, or even a coin struck using a hub in transition between design generations, leaving faint phantom details from an earlier year. And while none of these theories has been proven, the mere possibility ignites excitement among collectors, because the potential for extraordinary discovery is what makes the hobby so electrifying, and so the legend of the 1997 penny worth $32 million continues to spread, driven by curiosity, imagination, speculation, and the deeply rooted human belief that fortune might be hiding in the smallest, most unexpected places. Next. 1988 1-cent coin, a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors and treasure hunters around the world because of the extraordinary combination of errors, anomalies, and minting oddities that have led some examples to be valued as high as an unbelievable $25 million, a figure that defies logic for a coin that most people would assume is just another penny tossed into a jar or dropped under a car seat. But as we peel back the layers of how such a coin could ever reach This level of fame and fortune, we begin to see how the intersection of human error, mechanical malfunction, oversight, timing, and extremely rare circumstances can create a perfect storm that transforms a single small copper-plated zinc disc into an object of overwhelming desirability and extreme monetary value. And before we examine the highly specific mistakes behind the 1988 cent, it's important to welcome all our viewers, new and returning, and thank you for being part of this community of enthusiasts who share a passion for unraveling mysteries, spotting subtle errors invisible to the untrained eye, and uncovering the astonishing stories behind coins that were never meant to be special, yet somehow became some of the most coveted treasures in modern numismatics. And the story of the 1988 1-cent piece is more than just a list of errors, it's a tale of what happens when technology transitions, minting practices shift, engraving tools change, and oversight becomes fragmented, leading to year-specific issues that created cross-year die mixing, which is one of the core reasons the 1988 cent is so unusual, because while most people see the Lincoln cent as a stable design with very few visible differences from year to year, specialists know that the tiny details in the design, especially the designer's initials, the shape of the bust, the alignment of lettering, the edges of the columns on the Lincoln Memorial, and the transitions between reliefs can reveal when a die meant for 1 year accidentally ended up used in another production run, and in the case of the 1988 cent, several extremely rare examples exhibit what is known among collectors as the 1988 with 1989 reverse, an error created when the mint, likely during a period of high production pressure, mistakenly paired obverse dies from 1988 with reverse dies meant for 1989. Creating a hybrid coin that should never have existed and is extremely difficult to detect unless one knows precisely what to look for, such as the distinct shape and positioning of the designer's initials FG on the reverse, where the 1989 design has a noticeably sharper and more modernized engraving style compared to the slightly softer and rounder 1988 version, and this transition, although subtle, creates one of the central reasons the coin is so valuable. Because unintended die mixing means only a tiny number of such coins could have been struck before the error was caught or before the dies were naturally retired, and in the world of coin collecting, rarity is everything, but rarity alone isn't enough to push a coin into the tens of millions in value. Rather, it's the combination of rarity, demand, historical interest, condition, market hype, and the mythos surrounding a coin that gives rise to astronomical valuations, and the 1988 with 1989 reverse cent has all these ingredients, especially because it comes from a transitional period in mint history during which the switch from copper to copper-plated zinc had been fully established, yet the production machines, die hubs, and engraving tools were still undergoing refinements, meaning mistakes were more likely, particularly those involving dies being mislabeled or misplaced, and what makes this even more intriguing is the possibility that other errors occurred during the same period, such as off-center strikes where the coin planchet shifted slightly during striking, resulting in uneven margins, broad strikes where the retaining collar failed and the coin expanded beyond its normal boundaries, double die obverse errors where the design appears doubled due to slight rotational or mechanical misalignment, die cracks that formed unique raised lines across the coin's surface, misaligned dies that created ghosting effects, die chips that produced unusual bumps around lettering or inside design recesses, and improperly annealed planchets that gave the coin irregular coloring or textures, all of which, if appearing together with the already valuable reverse transition error, could magnify the value exponentially, creating what collectors sometimes call a cascading rarity, where multiple anomalies compound to produce a one-of-a-kind coin. And this is where the extraordinary valuations come into play, because it's not merely the reverse transition that turns the 1988 cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure, but the compounded theoretical possibility that one specimen might exist with multiple overlapping mistakes, perhaps a misaligned or doubled obverse paired with the transitional reverse, or a coin struck on an improperly prepared planchet, or even the extraordinarily unlikely scenario of a wrong planchet strike, where, For instance, a dime planchet or a leftover foreign coin planchet accidentally passed through the cent press in 1988, resulting in a hybrid error that collectors would consider priceless. And when such theoretical possibilities circulate in the numismatic world, even if only one such coin is rumored to exist, the market can react with extreme enthusiasm, driving values up as collectors and investors compete to acquire what they believe could be the rarest version of a known error, and the excitement surrounding these possibilities often leads to soaring prices at private auctions where wealthy buyers are willing to pay extraordinary amounts for the status of owning the rarest known example of a transitional coin. And the legend of the 1988 cent grows even further because the mint has never fully confirmed the exact number of transitional dies used in that year, leaving the door open for speculation that more varieties could exist, fueling treasure hunting, inspiring countless collectors to examine their pocket change, and generating a continual buzz that elevates the coin's fame and perceived value. And when people hear stories of coins selling for millions, many assume the buyers are irrational, but in reality, the value is tied to scarcity, cultural significance, desirability, and the deep human fascination with mistakes, because errors tell stories of how even large, highly structured institutions like the U.S. Mint are not immune to missteps, and these missteps produce objects that capture attention decades later, representing a moment frozen in time when something went differently than planned, and that difference becomes the foundation for tremendous value. And as collectors study the 1988 cent more intensely, additional microerrors continue to be discovered, such as die polishing anomalies that slightly alter the appearance of the Lincoln Memorial steps, overpolished fields that give parts of the coin a glassy or overly reflective sheen, radial flow lines that reveal overuse of the die, and subtle hub doubling that can only be detected under magnification but adds yet another layer of uniqueness. And when all these factors converge, they create an ideal environment for extreme valuations, especially as the market for rare coins continues to expand with new collectors entering the hobby and driving up demand for historically significant errors. And when we consider all this, the transitional reverse, the potential for overlapping errors, the uncertainty of the mintage numbers, the intense collector demand, the mythology around exceptionally rare transitional cents, it becomes far easier to see how the 1988 1-cent piece could reach valuations of $25 million in private sales or hypothetical offerings. Especially when high-net-worth collectors seek unique artifacts that stand out in their collections, and this incredible story invites everyone watching to take a closer look at their own pennies, because the next great discovery might be sitting unnoticed in a drawer, a jar, or a forgotten roll of coins waiting for someone with a keen eye to recognize its hidden value. Next, 2011 D 1-cent coin, a coin so ordinary at first glance that millions of people have handled it without the slightest awareness that an ultra-rare error version of this coin has been valued as high as $1.9 million in private collector speculation, a staggering figure for a modern copper-plated zinc cent minted in huge quantities. And yet when you begin to understand the errors, mistakes, and unusual minting anomalies that can occur during production, as well as the microscopic details that separate a normal penny from one of the rarest transitional, mechanical, or planchet-based mistakes in recent memory, you begin to realize that the 2011 D cent is not merely a pocket change coin but a potential gateway to extraordinary value. And that's why I want to welcome all our viewers, new collectors, seasoned numismatists, treasure hunters, and curious minds, into this fascinating discussion today as we explore exactly how and why a tiny 1-cent coin could ever reach such a massive price tag and what kinds of errors and possibilities make this particular year, this particular mint mark, and this particular design so uniquely intriguing to the collector world. Because at first glance the 2011 D cent seems like one of the most ordinary years in the entire modern Lincoln Shieldback series, part of the post-2010 design introduction that replaced the long-running Lincoln Memorial reverse with the shield design meant to symbolize unity and preservation, yet hidden within that Seemingly simple changeover are subtle shifts in die tooling, engraving details, hub design, and production processes that opened the door to a wide range of potential minting anomalies, and as every seasoned collector knows, whenever there is a major design transition or tooling adjustment, the likelihood of errors increases dramatically, especially during the first few years of production. And with Denver being known for extremely high speed, high-volume minting operations, the chances of minor oversights, misalignments, or equipment irregularities become even more real, creating the perfect storm for a coin like the 2011 D sent to contain rare varieties that collectors today are still discovering, analyzing, and searching for in the hopes of finding one of those legendary million-dollar mistakes. And one of the most talked about possibilities involves the concept of transitional errors, which occur when dies from one year or one design variation are mistakenly used during the minting of another year's coins, and while such errors are extremely rare, the 2011 D has fueled speculation that a handful of test reverse dies, possibly early or experimental versions of the shield design, may have accidentally been paired with standard 2011 obverse dies, creating a microvariety with slight differences in line depth, shield curvature, texture density, or designer initial placement, and these micro differences are often so small that even collectors with magnification sometimes fail to notice them. Yet in the world of numismatics, even slight unintended variations can create enormous value if they represent a mistake that endured for only a short production run before the mint corrected it. And because the Denver Mint processes billions of coins annually, many of these ultra-rare pieces can slip into circulation unnoticed, leading to endless treasure hunts across bank rolls and pocket change. And beyond transitional errors, the 2011 D penny also holds potential for dramatic striking mistakes that could skyrocket its value, such as off-center strikes where the planchet was improperly seated, creating a crescent-shaped blank area, broad strikes that occur when the retaining collar fails, allowing the coin to spread wider than normal, misaligned die strikes that force the design to appear tilted or shifted, double die obverse errors where mechanical doubling or hub doubling creates a clear duplication in lettering or design elements, die cracks and die breaks that form raised lines or chunks in the surface, die chips that create small blobs in areas like Lincoln's tie, beard, or the shield crevices, and even clash dies where the obverse and reverse dies accidentally strike each other without a planchet in between, leaving ghost-like impressions of the opposite side's design, all of which collectors highly prize when the error appears bold, dramatic, and unmistakably mint-made. And when you combine this with the shield reverse design, which contains numerous tiny lines, angles, and details that can fail to strike up properly under pressure or develop anomalies due to die wear or metal flow, the potential number of rare, valuable subvarieties expands dramatically, particularly when the error occurs early in the die's life, producing crisp, fully distinguished features that make the mistake unmistakable and therefore highly desirable. And another major element fueling the million-dollar valuations is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes, an error that occurs when a blank meant for a completely different denomination, or even a foreign coin planchet, accidentally enters the cent striking chamber, creating a coin with incorrect weight, incorrect metal composition, and sometimes incorrect diameter. And while wrong planchet errors have been documented in various years, finding a modern shield reverse penny struck on a dime planchet, steel planchet, nickel planchet, or foreign blank would be an extraordinary discovery, and some collectors believe that at least one such example exists for the 2011 D year based on weight reports and private sector speculation, and if authenticated, such a discovery would command enormous prices due to its extreme rarity and unique combination of modern design and historic mistake. And beyond the major dramatic errors, even small anomalies can greatly increase value when they occur in extremely small numbers, such as improperly annealed planchets that lead to unusual coloration, streaking, or chemical reactions, plated layer bubbles or splits where the zinc core expands or separates, feeder finger scrapes that leave straight, parallel tool marks across the surface, polishing errors where mint workers attempted to smooth a damaged die but accidentally removed elements of the design, leaving missing details or oddly flattened areas, and tilt strike errors where the two dies did not meet perfectly parallel, causing one side of the coin to strike weakly while the opposite side appears strong and raised, and every one of these errors, if rare enough, dramatic enough, and tied to a year with design significance like 2011, can push prices upward, especially when collectors compete to own the finest known example, and this is where the $1 million valuation truly gains momentum, because as with other legendary modern errors, the highest values come from coins that combine multiple mistakes at once, creating a cascading rarity where the overlap of anomalies becomes so unlikely that only one or two examples could ever exist, such as a wrong planchet strike that is also off-center and also shows a double die, or a transitional die pairing that also includes a dramatic die break, and when such a combination occurs, the coin immediately becomes the centerpiece of private bidding wars among elite collectors who value uniqueness above all else. And because so little is publicly documented about the earliest die production quirks during the introduction of the modern shield reverse, speculation remains high that extremely rare hybrid errors may still be out there waiting to be discovered, fueling searches through 2011 D rolls, bank boxes, and hoarded change jars, inspiring collectors worldwide to examine every detail of every coin. And as market excitement grows, so does the price potential, because rarity combined with mystery creates desirability, and desirability combined with competition creates value, and that is exactly why the 2011 D penny, despite being one of the most abundant modern coins, can in specific rare error forms reach unbelievable valuations approaching $1.9 million in private estimates. And this entire story not only illustrates the stunning potential hidden within ordinary pocket change but also reminds every viewer that sometimes the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth nearly $2 million is nothing more than one split-second mistake in the minting process, one unnoticed die mix-up, one machine malfunction, or one experimental die slipping into circulation, a reminder that enormous value can be hiding in plain sight, waiting for the right pair of eyes to finally recognize it. Next. 2006 1-cent coin, a coin that millions of people have handled without giving it a second thought, yet rare error versions of this humble penny have sparked incredible excitement among collectors and have even been valued as high as $12 million in private numismatic speculation. And as unbelievable as that sounds, once you understand the types of errors, minting mishaps, and unusual possibilities associated with the 2006 penny, you begin to see why certain examples could be worth such an astronomical amount, because even though the 2006 Lincoln Memorial Cent seems like a very normal issue from a year long after major design transitions and well into the mint's high-speed, high-volume modern era, this particular year carries with it a surprising range of potential anomalies that make it especially attractive to collectors. And that's why I want to welcome all of you who are watching today. Whether you are a seasoned expert in coin collecting, a hobbyist who loves finding rare pieces in pocket change, or someone brand new who is simply fascinated by the idea that a tiny coin can be worth millions, because the 2006 penny story is not just about a number printed in a price guide or whispered in a collector forum, but about the incredible reality that minting errors, mechanical failures, human oversight, and moments of unpredictability inside the minting process can create unique artifacts that stand apart from the billions of normal coins around them. And when such a unique piece combines rarity, dramatic error features, historical interest, and market demand, its value can skyrocket beyond what anyone would expect from a modern cent, and the 2006 penny is a perfect example of how unexpected this world can be. Because this was a year when the Denver and Philadelphia mints were producing enormous numbers of cents, copper-plated zinc coins that weighed 2.5 grams with the familiar memorial reverse, but even during these routine production cycles, mistakes can and do happen, sometimes so subtle that thousands of people may handle the coin without noticing anything unusual, and sometimes so dramatic that the error is immediately obvious to the naked eye, creating the kind of specimens that become legendary among collectors. And for the 2006 penny, one of the most widely discussed possibilities involves major double die errors, which occur when the die used to strike the coins receives the design impression more than once in slightly misaligned positions, creating a doubling effect on the letters, numbers, or design features, and on a coin like the 2006 cent, a bold doubled Liberty, an unusually pronounced doubling on "I in God We Trust," or a dramatic doubling on the date could instantly make the coin one of the most valuable examples known, especially if the doubling is the result of hub doubling rather than mechanical doubling, because hub doubling is created in the die-making process itself, meaning all coins struck from that die share the same error, and if only a single die was affected and only a small batch of coins was produced, the rarity becomes extreme, and when rarity becomes extreme, value increases exponentially. And another major factor that pushes the 2006 penny into the realm of multi-million-dollar speculation is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes, where instead of the normal copper-plated zinc blank, the mint accidentally used a planchet meant for another denomination or even for a foreign coin, producing a penny that weighs differently, looks different, or has a different metallic composition entirely. And examples from modern decades have been found on dime planchets, nickel planchets, steel planchets, experimental composition planchets, and even leftover blanks from other countries' currency production. And if a 2006 penny were found struck on the wrong planchet, especially if the coin displayed the complete design cleanly and sharply and retained most of its details, the value could instantly skyrocket into the millions, particularly if such an error were determined to be unique. And beyond wrong planchet errors, there are also highly dramatic striking errors that collectors love to see, such as off-center strikes where the planchet was not properly aligned with the dies, producing a coin with a large blank crescent-shaped area, broad strikes where the retaining collar failed and allowed the coin to expand outward, losing its proper rim, double strikes where the coin was struck once, bounced slightly, and was struck again, creating overlapping images, rotated dies where the reverse and obverse do not line up as they should, and multiple strike errors where the coin was hit several times in different positions, resulting in a surreal, chaotic, and visually stunning piece that collectors consider one of a kind. And when such errors occur on a year like 2006, where billions of ordinary coins were made and only a few anomalies stand out, the rarity amplifies the value even further, and collectors also search for die cracks, die breaks, die chips, feeder finger scrapes, planchet defects, and improper annealing errors, all of which can alter the appearance of the coin in ways that make it unique. And these small anomalies, when found in combination or when found in dramatic form, can greatly increase value, particularly when they occur in areas like Lincoln's eye, beard, coat, the memorial building, the columns, or the lettering, where collectors can easily see them and appreciate them as part of the coin's identity. And another fascinating possibility for the 2006 penny involves transitional die varieties, which occur when a die from a previous year or next year is mistakenly used during production, creating a hybrid coin that technically should not exist. And while the 2006 cent was not officially part of a major design transition year, it was still produced during a period of ongoing die maintenance, hub adjustments, and subtle engraving refinements, meaning that an earlier design die or experimental die could have been mistakenly paired with the 2006 obverse, creating a coin with tiny differences in plating texture, portrait details, rim thickness, or reverse alignment. And when collectors discover such transitional varieties, particularly ones that can be definitively traced to mint error rather than post-mint modification, the value skyrockets, because transitional errors are among the rarest and most desirable forms of coin anomalies. And what makes the 2006 penny especially intriguing is the vast number of errors that have been documented from surrounding years, suggesting that the mint was adjusting equipment, refining processes, and making numerous changes that could have easily created rare opportunities for mistakes. and as more collectors investigate the 2006 cents with microscopes and precision tools, additional varieties continue to emerge, further fueling the belief that somewhere among the billions of 2006 pennies struck, a handful of extremely rare, extremely valuable, and possibly unique mistakes exist, waiting to be discovered, and this growing sense of possibility and mystery is one of the key reasons why the speculation for a $12 million 2006 penny persists, because in the world of ultra-rare error coins, the value is determined not just by what has already been found, but by what could exist, what might appear in the future, what might be sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket change, and what discoveries might completely rewrite our understanding of that year's production. And when collectors imagine a coin that combines multiple extraordinary errors, such as a wrong planchet strike also showing double dies, also struck off-center, also displaying a dramatic die break, they know that such a coin would be priceless, a true one-of-one specimen that would ignite bidding wars among elite collectors, pushing the value far beyond typical price guides and into the realm of private multi-million-dollar sales. And this is exactly how the legend of the $12 million 2006 penny continues to grow, inspiring treasure hunters everywhere to examine every coin they find, reminding everyone watching today that incredible value can still be hiding in the most unexpected places, waiting for someone with patience, attention to detail, and a little bit of luck to uncover it. Next, 1995 D1-cent coin. A coin that most people would never think twice about, yet certain rare error examples tied to this exact year and mint have been valued by collectors and private buyers as high as $4 million, and when you hear a number that big attached to a penny, it seems unbelievable at first, but once we step into the complicated world of minting processes, transitional design anomalies, die preparation flaws, mechanical strikes, metal composition issues, and all the unpredictable quirks that can occur during high-speed production at the Denver Mint, you begin to understand how this year's cent became so famous and why certain rare versions command astronomical prices. So as we begin this deep dive, I want to welcome everyone who's tuning in, whether you're a seasoned collector, a coin roll hunter who searches boxes for hidden gems, someone exploring numismatics for the first time, or simply someone fascinated by the idea that a mistake in the minting process nearly 30 years ago could make a penny worth millions, because the story of the 1995 D penny is full of twists, surprises, and possibilities that continue to excite the collecting community even today. And one of the first things that makes this year so interesting is the sheer number of known varieties that already exist for the 1995 cents, including the famous 1995 Double Die Obverse from the Philadelphia Mint, which has strong doubling on Liberty and attracted enormous attention throughout the collecting world. And while that particular error is not associated with the Denver Mint, its existence set the stage for heightened scrutiny of all 1995 cents, meaning collectors began to search for any unusual traits, any signs of doubling, misalignment, unusual die wear, or striking inconsistencies. And it was this increased interest that led to the discovery of several minor anomalies in 1995 D cents, but also to speculation that extremely rare and dramatic errors existed or still existed undiscovered, and those speculations are what fuel the multi-million-dollar valuation potential, because the Denver Mint in the mid-1990s was undergoing production expansions, equipment adjustments, and high-volume output demands, all of which increased the likelihood of minting mistakes. And when you combine high-speed presses with worn dies, misaligned components, potential transitional tooling, and the constant pressure to keep up with demand, it creates a fertile environment for errors such as double dies, repunched mint marks, die cracks, die breaks, off-metal strikes, broad strikes, off-center strikes, die polishing anomalies, and even wrong planchet errors, any of which, if rare enough and dramatic enough, could send the value of a 1995 D penny into the millions. And one of the most significant possibilities involves a dramatic double die obverse or double die reverse coming out of Denver, because while no widely recognized major double die for the 1995 D Scent has been confirmed in major catalogs. Private collectors and error specialists have long theorized that at least one extremely bold, extremely early-stage double die could exist, perhaps struck by a die that was quickly retired before the mint caught the inconsistency, meaning only a handful of coins, possibly even one, could have entered circulation, and if such a coin displays unmistakable doubling in the date, Liberty, In God We Trust, or Lincoln's profile, its rarity would push it into the highest tiers of the error coin market. And another major factor that contributes to the $4 million speculation is the possibility of wrong planchet strikes, because even though 1995 cents were supposed to be struck on copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams, the mint has occasionally misfed blanks intended for other denominations or even for foreign contract coins. And if a 1995 D penny were discovered struck on a lesser-known foreign bronze or steel planchet, or on a dime planchet, or even on an experimental metal composition leftover from the planchet suppliers, that alone could drive the coin's value into the millions, especially if the strike is full and clean, preserving a well-defined version of Lincoln's portrait and the reverse details, and beyond wrong planchet errors. The 1995 D penny is also known for a variety of dramatic striking errors that might exist in ultra-rare combinations, such as off-center strikes showing a large portion of the blank planchet, double strikes in different positions where the coin is struck once, then rotated or shifted and struck again, creating a surreal overlapping effect, triple strikes where the coin is hit multiple times while misaligned, broad strikes that occur outside the retaining collar and cause the penny to spread wider than normal, and die caps where a planchet sticks to the die and repeatedly strikes subsequent coins, creating unusual distortions that collectors value extremely highly. And when you consider that any of these errors could theoretically occur in combination, such as an off-center strike combined with a double die, or a double strike combined with a wrong planchet, or a broad strike combined with a dramatic die crack, you begin to see how a single 1995 D penny displaying multiple overlapping errors could achieve world record values, because coins with cascading errors are among the rarest in existence, and when they occur in modern years like 1995, where billions of normal coins exist, the rarity is immediately amplified, and collectors know that elite buyers routinely pay massive amounts for one-of-a-kind pieces that show extreme uniqueness, perfect preservation, or historically important anomalies. And another reason the 1995 D penny carries such enormous speculative value is the potential for transitional reverse errors. Even though the main design transition from the Lincoln Memorial to the Shield reverse did not occur until 2010, because the mint sometimes experimented with engraving refinements, hub adjustments, or subtle relief changes years before official design rollouts, and if even one such experimental die from a test phase was mistakenly paired with a Denver obverse die in 1995, resulting in a slightly altered memorial reverse, perhaps with different line thickness in the columns, different spacing in the steps, different font shape in 1 cent, or differently angled rooflines, such a transitional error would be among the most significant modern finds, especially because it would represent an unauthorized test design unintentionally released into circulation, and collectors value unauthorized or test designs at astronomically high prices, often far beyond what traditional errors bring. And this brings us to another powerful reason the 1995 D penny could reach valuations of $4 million, the mystery factor, because collectors are still actively searching for rare Denver errors from this year, and many believe that the most dramatic specimens have not yet been found, perhaps hidden in personal hoards, old coin jars, forgotten rolls, or unsearched bank boxes. And whenever the possibility exists that a unique or unknown error might surface, speculative value rises, inspiring even more people to search their change, examine coins under microscopes, and submit unusual finds for certification. And each time a new minor 1995 D variety is discovered, whether a die cracked through Lincoln's coat, a die chip inside the 9 of the date, a tiny split in the memorial steps, or a lightly rotated reverse, It reinforces the idea that more dramatic errors could exist, and as the numismatic market grows more competitive, collectors are increasingly willing to pay record-breaking sums to secure the rarest examples before anyone else can claim them, especially for coins that combine rarity, dramatic appearance, historical significance, and mystery, and this is exactly why the legend of the $4 million 1995 D penny continues to grow year after year, because the perfect combination of potential errors, minting environment, speculation, collector demand, and the sheer excitement of the unknown all come together to create a coin that might still be hiding in someone's pocket or drawer, waiting to be discovered, and that is what makes the story so powerful and so captivating for everyone watching today, serving as a reminder that rare treasures can still be found in the most unexpected places. Next. 1994 1-cent coin, an ordinary Lincoln Memorial penny that millions of people handled without a second thought, became associated with jaw-dropping value estimates reaching as high as $9 million because of the extraordinary world of mint errors, overlooked mistakes, unexplained variations, and once-in-a-lifetime possibilities that continue to intrigue collectors, researchers, and treasure hunters around the globe. So welcome once again to everyone watching, whether you are a coin roll hunter who loves examining pocket change with a magnifying glass, or a seasoned collector who understands the subtle drama behind hub doubling, die deterioration and planchet anomalies, or simply someone amazed by the idea that the smallest coin in American currency, a single cent from 1994, could potentially be worth more than luxury mansions, sports cars, or rare art pieces simply because of what happened inside the United States Mint during the production process, and as we embark on this deep dive into the errors and mysterious possibilities surrounding the 1994 cent, it's important to remember that modern pennies from the late 1980s and early 1990s were produced during a period of exhaustive high-speed minting, when machinery was pushed beyond comfortable limits, dies wore out faster than expected, and new copper-plated zinc planchets continued causing challenges for minting equipment, and this combination of speed, pressure, material change, and equipment stress made the early 1990s one of the most error-prone eras for Lincoln cents, particularly 1994 because production numbers soared and the mint faced continuous demands to deliver billions of coins quickly, which inevitably created the perfect environment for unusual minting mistakes, freak accidents, rare mechanical failures, and experimental or transitional anomalies that were never meant to escape into circulation, and that is precisely why so many collectors believe that a yet undiscovered extreme mint error from 1994 could justify a valuation as high as $9 million, because when a coin is truly unique, visually dramatic, historically significant, tied to an error event that lasted only seconds, and authenticated by major grading companies, the value becomes whatever the most passionate collectors are willing to pay, especially when the combination of errors makes the piece unlike anything else known. And to understand how such a value could be possible, we need to examine all the categories of mint errors and clandestine possibilities that could transform a 1994 penny into a multimillion-dollar treasure, starting with one of the most coveted and powerful error types in existence, the double die, because a true double die, one caused during the hubbing process when the working die receives two misaligned impressions, is one of the rarest and most dramatic forms of mint error, capable of producing legendary coins like the 1955 double die, the 1969 double die, the 1972 double die, and the 1995 double die, all of which are some of the most iconic and valuable cents in history. And even though the 1994 series does not contain a widely recognized major double die, collectors know that the absence of a documented double die does not mean that one does not exist, because double dies can be extremely scarce when the misaligned hubbing is caught early in the die preparation stage, resulting in only a handful or perhaps even a single coin ever being struck before the mint removed or corrected the faulty die. And if such a coin exists for 1994, especially one with strong doubling visible on Liberty, In God We Trust, the date, or Lincoln's profile, its rarity would be beyond comprehension, making it a prime candidate for multi-million-dollar valuation, since collectors will pay enormous premiums for unique and spectacular double-die varieties. But doubling isn't the only possibility that excites numismatists, because the 1994 penny also falls within a period where the mint struggled with die deterioration, die fatigue, and metal flow issues due to the softer copper-plated zinc planchets, which caused dies to crack more frequently, resulting in dramatic die breaks, cuds, retained cuds, interior breaks, and rim-to-rim cracks. And while most of these are minor and collectible at low prices, the possibility of a catastrophic die failure, one in which the die literally shattered or broke apart in a way that left enormous raised blobs, missing design sections, or monstrous metal disruptions, could produce a coin so dramatic and visually shocking that collectors would treat it as a once-in-a-generation discovery. And catastrophic die breaks from the zinc penny era are particularly sought after because zinc planchets often amplify the severity of the error by filling cracks aggressively and producing bold raised metal forms, which means a massive cud covering half the reverse, or a complete collapse of the die face producing unrecognizable distortions, could elevate the 1994 penny into the realm of multi-million-dollar rarity. But that's only the beginning, because the most valuable errors in the world are often the result of planchet mistakes, and if even one 1994 cent was struck on the wrong planchet, such as a foreign coin blank, a leftover copper planchet from pre-1982 stock, a dime planchet, a nickel planchet, an aluminum test planchet, or a transitional or experimental blank used internally, the resulting coin would be immeasurably rare, because the early 1990s was a period when the U.S. Mint produced foreign coins for several nations, meaning that blanks and planchets for foreign denominations were constantly present in the factory, and mistakes were possible, and a 1994 cent struck on a foreign blank with unusual metal composition, odd weight, different thickness, slightly off-color tone, or unusual ring when tapped could easily become one of the most valuable modern errors ever found, especially if it remained untrimmed and fully struck, and if the coin also featured additional errors, like off-center striking, broad striking, multiple strikes, or rotated die alignment. The value could escalate dramatically, because combined errors, especially those involving wrong planchets, are among the most sought-after discoveries in modern numismatics. And speaking of off-center strikes, the year 1994 is particularly interesting because the high-speed presses used during that period were notorious for producing misaligned die strikes when planchets were not properly centered or when feeder fingers malfunctioned. And while off-center pennies are common in general, extremely dramatic off-center errors, such as those struck 80% off-center while still showing a full date, can command huge premiums. And if paired with a wrong planchet or double die, or if the coin was double struck, first off-center and then again normally or rotated, it would create a one-of-a-kind rarity capable of reaching astonishing value. And even more tantalizing is the possibility of double striking inside the collar, triple strikes with rotation, flip-over strikes where the coin flips between strikes, and brockage strikes where one coin impresses onto another, all of which could theoretically occur in 1994 because the Mint's automated feed systems were extremely active, often stressed, and occasionally prone to jamming or malfunctioning, and any 1994 cent exhibiting a full brockage with mirror image details, or a dramatic flip-over double strike showing reversed impressions across Lincoln's portrait, would be among the most spectacular errors ever discovered from the decade, easily commanding multi-million-dollar attention. And while many collectors focus on the obvious errors, serious numismatists also evaluate subtle possibilities such as transitional design anomalies, because although the Lincoln Memorial reverse remained consistent from 1959 to 2008, internal engraving refinements, spacing shifts, hub changes, and design modifications occurred frequently throughout the lifespan of the design as the Mint updated equipment, replaced worn hubs, and introduced digital engraving technology. and if a transitional hub was mistakenly paired with another year's die, or if a test reverse hub with different column spacing, altered steps, modified lettering thickness, or redesigned border was used accidentally for a short run in 1994 before being caught. Last. Today we're exploring the mysterious possibilities behind the 2008 1-cent coin, a year that at first glance seems like any other in the long-running Lincoln Memorial Cent series, yet carries with it some of the most intriguing, high-stakes minting mysteries of the modern era. And in this long and immersive exploration we're going to unpack how a simple penny from 2008, struck in the final year before the historic 2009 bicentennial redesigns, could theoretically reach a staggering valuation of $19 million if a spectacular, once-in-a-generation combination of mint errors, mechanical failures, transitional anomalies, wrong planchet strikes, and rare experimental possibilities were ever discovered on a surviving specimen. So welcome again to all viewers, longtime subscribers, and brand new coin enthusiasts alike, because what you're about to hear is not just another story about coins but a deep look into the hidden drama of the US Mint, the unseen mechanical chaos behind billions of pennies struck each year, and the razor-thin margins separating an ordinary, common coin from one of the most valuable minting accidents in American history. And right away it's important to understand that 2008 is a special year in coin production because it marked the final year of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design before the mint shifted gears in 2009 to produce 4 different bicentennial reverse designs, followed by the introduction of the shield design in 2010, a period of intense transition, redesign, hub modifications, die replacements, and heavy experimentation as the mint prepared for new engraving and updated minting technology. And transitional periods are always ripe for extraordinary mint mistakes because the constant switching of dies, testing of hubs, recalibration of equipment, movement of old reverse dies out of production lines, and preparation of new designs increase the likelihood that something will go wrong. And in the world of numismatics, the rarer and more dramatic the error, the more explosive its value, and this is especially true when a mistake occurs during a transition year like 2008, when strange combinations, such as mismatched dies, outdated hubs, or experimental test strikes, become not only possible but historically documented in earlier transition periods. And that leads collectors to wonder whether something truly extraordinary may have been struck in 2008, unnoticed, and then slipped into circulation, making the possibilities behind a $19 million valuation entirely believable under the right circumstances. So let's begin by examining the most coveted error type of all, the double die, because in almost every instance where a coin has reached legendary status, doubling has played a key role. And although the 2008 cent does not have a widely recognized major double die like the famous 1995 double die or the 1955 masterpiece, the absence of a known example only increases the intrigue. Because dramatic double dies often slip by unnoticed when they occur early in the hubbing process and are corrected almost immediately by the mint, meaning only a handful of coins, or potentially a single coin, ever leave the facility with the mistaken die, and if even one 2008 penny exists with major doubled features on the date, Liberty, the motto, or Lincoln's portrait, it could instantly change the landscape of modern numismatics, commanding a valuation in the millions simply due to uniqueness and dramatic visual impact. And beyond doubling, there's the possibility of catastrophic die breaks, which became increasingly common in the zinc penny era due to the softer planchet material, which caused dies to wear out quicker and crack more aggressively, sometimes producing huge, dramatic cuts, shattered die effects, collapsed die faces, or raised metal eruptions that make the coin look almost sculptural. And if a 2008 cent were found with a monstrous cut taking over a huge portion of the reverse, or a die break running through Lincoln's portrait that created an enormous raised metal formation, or even a multi-stage shattering event that produced a completely unique variety, collectors would immediately classify it as a once-in-a-century error, something so rare that its value could easily justify million-dollar territory. especially considering how few late memorial cuds are known from 2008, but the most valuable errors often involve planchets, and this is where things become extremely interesting, because during 2008 the mint was not only producing domestic coins but was also still involved in limited foreign coin production contracts, which means foreign planchets were present in minting facilities, and whenever foreign blanks, or leftover planchets from earlier US years, or even experimental blanks, enter the environment where billions of US pennies are being struck, the chance of a wrong planchet strike becomes very real, and wrong planchet cents are some of the most valuable mint errors of all time, with some examples selling for hundreds of thousands depending on how unusual the planchet is, and if a 2008 penny was struck by mistake on a foreign steel planchet, an experimental aluminum planchet, an untrimmed copper planchet, a blank designed for a dime or nickel, or even a test piece used during equipment calibration, it could produce a discovery so shocking and so historically important that its value could reach $19 million under heated auction competition, especially if the coin combined multiple error types, like being off-center and also on the wrong planchet, or double struck on a wrong metal composition, or struck with rotated dies while also exhibiting dramatic doubling, because combined errors are extremely rare and collectors go absolutely wild for them, paying whatever price necessary to secure a coin that is truly one of a kind. And speaking of off-center strikes, the 2008 cent also presents opportunities for extreme mechanical malfunctions, because high-speed presses often misfeed planchets, jam, or eject coins improperly during transitional periods when equipment adjustments are constantly being made, and this can result in off-center strikes, broad strikes without a collar, double strikes with rotation, triple strikes, flip-over errors where the coin flips between strikes, and blockage strikes where one coin impresses its mirror image design onto another, and while isolated examples of these errors exist in most years, a dramatic, full-date off-center combined with a blockage or a double strike from 2008 would become a superstar of modern minting errors, and because 2008 marks the final memorial reverse year, any rare error carries heightened historical weight, making it even more valuable. But the most mind-blowing possibility of all is the transitional or mule error, because 2008 sits right on the threshold of the 2009 redesigns, meaning new reverse hubs and dies were being prepared behind closed doors, experimental hubs were being tested, and alignment calibrations were being performed to ensure the upcoming bicentennial designs would strike correctly, and historically, whenever the mint transitions from one design to another, mule errors become possible, such as the legendary Sacagawea quarter mule from 2000, and if by some extremely unlikely but technically possible event a 2008 obverse die was accidentally paired with a 2009 test reverse die, producing even a single transitional mule, that coin would instantly surpass nearly all known modern rarities in value, because collectors treat transitional mules as sacred artifacts of minting history, and a 2008 to 2009 mule would not only be the first of its kind but also represent a monumental minting error during a major design change, making $19 million realistic under intense auction pressure. And the reason these valuations reach such astronomical levels is because truly unique coins have no price ceiling. Auction houses set starting estimates, but collectors, museums, wealthy investors, and passionate numismatists often engage in bidding wars that push prices far beyond expectations, especially when the coin is visually stunning, historically important, and confirmed as the only example known. And since the 2008 penny was minted in massive quantities, there remains the tantalizing possibility that a major, undiscovered error could still be out there, resting unnoticed in circulation, tucked into an old collection, sitting forgotten in a bank box, or sleeping in a jar of change waiting for someone with sharp eyes to discover it, which is exactly why the legend of the $19 million 2008 cent continues to grow, because with transitional chaos, heavy mint activity, worn dies, equipment shifts, planchet variety, experimental hubs, and mechanical stress all converging in one historic year,